Yeah. I've actually never finished that movie, The Shining. I've only...
It took them forever to do it.
I've only seen about a third of the way through the movie.
Oh, you never finished?
Yeah, I never finished watching the movie.
Yeah, it's good. It's a long movie. It's like 3 hours long.
Yeah, that's why I never finished watching it, because it's so long.
Kubrick was such a perfectionist that he was never happy unless he did a scene about 100 times.
Right. I think it's kind of funny. I've seen all these, like, on YouTube. They have, like, a bunch of, like, I typed in Florida, and almost all of it was, like, UFOs over Florida. I've never seen a UFO over Florida once.
I believe in a lot of that stuff.
I do, too.
Actually, my ex-wife, they lived in northern New York, near an army base, Fort Drum, which at that time was like they used to train the Mountain Division. Of course, that's when we were kind of still in the Cold War. Of course, now a lot of the wars are going to be in the desert, but
right.
You know, or Afghanistan, I guess, which is relevant to Fort Drum because it's really cold there. They do winter training. And when my first wife was a kid, probably a teenager, they were coming back from, they have a hunting camp, now it's like a house up in the Adirondack, and they taking the back roads, it's like out in the middle of nowhere, and they saw something out over this field, and it wasn't really that high, and it was like one of those deals they couldn't explain.
Yeah.
But they just, when they saw it, he just got the hell out of there. And her father was in, I think, the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
He was in, or maybe the Army, but he was doing Army intelligence stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the early 60s. Not that he would have anything to do with that, but I think he kind of knew. Not that he knew about that type of thing, but he knew enough to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And even after he left, and even when he was like a sheet metal worker, working on a nuke plant, you know, they were building a nuke plant, but the CIA was trying to get him to go back to work. He must have been an expert in something. Of course, back in the 60s, they were experimenting with LSD, you know, trying to get like a truth serum type thing.
Yeah.
Trying to use LSD or use LSD to kind of like hypnotize people to get them to do things, you know, like the movie The Manchurian Candidate was kind of based on that.
Yeah.
And some people think that Sirhan was under hypnosis when he shot Bobby Kennedy because he didn't know what he did, you know. There was a lot of stuff going on back then. There is now stuff you don't know about, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot we don't know, and I almost wouldn't be surprised at anything.
Alright. It's one of my favorite shows, is Destination Truth. Because, like the first episode was, like, 2, like, mysteries. Like, one was, like, that mermaid that got washed up in, like, some island. Like, a dead mermaid.
Really?
And one was, like, a dinosaur that still lives around today in, like, some swamps in, like, New Guinea or somewhere. And he goes out there and, like, interviews, like, everybody and goes, like, into the jungle by himself. And they've gotten some pretty weird stuff.
You ever heard of Coast to Coast AM?
Coast to Coast AM?
With George Norrie?
Mm-mm.
It's a radio show that basically deals in, like, UFOs and aliens, and George Norrie is on some of those shows you see on, like, Arts and Leisure Channel or the History Channel that talks about UFOs. Like, he'll be on those shows. But that's what they have. They have guests who talk about UFOs, or they talk about ESP, or they talk about, you know, Bigfoot, and they just, that's the type of guests they have. It's on. New shows start, it's like an overnight, so new shows start like at 1. Yeah. And they last till like 5 in the morning, but then from like 9 to 1, they'll play the show from the night before.
Yeah.
And then on weekends they have like the best of. The guy who used to do the show, his name is Art Bell, and they'll play. They call Somewhere in Time, and they'll play some show back, somewhere in the past.
Yeah.
And then they have a guy who has a radio show in Minnesota, will come and do like a weekend, the weekend night. But it's an interesting show. I mean, that's usually that or sports radio is what I listen to. But it's interesting. We have some interesting people talking about interesting stuff like ghost hunters. They have all sorts of stuff. It's all that type of genre, the UFOs or.
I want to get some of the. I see like some of the equipment they use on the shows, and I've always wanted some of them. They're like, because it's always so cool, like on ghost hunters and stuff, like a FLIR, the thermal imaging camera.
Right, but they'll have guys and girls and women on there that will record phenomenon, and you can like hear voices. Of course, they can't hear it, but it's picked up by the tape recorder. That's kind of spooky.
I actually have that on my computer. I have a Ouija board. It's Amanda's, but I was just doing it one night, recording it, and there's like some voices on it. I thought it was actually. I was like listening to it back to see if there's any, because that can happen. And I was like, oh, that's kind of.
You were playing, and then you had
there's a voice on it. What it is like I have like
my. What does it say?
Don't touch me. And actually, I make a hand movement right when it happens.
Is it a male voice?
It's weird. It's like
hard to tell.